So I want to spend some time talking about faith. Faith is a big part of what it is to be a Christian, but do you know what faith is? Well, I'm going to talk about it. So I'm going to talk, and I'm going to start, and I'm going to talk about what it's not. What is not? Faith is not a desire. It's not a longing. Faith isn't a wanting. It's not a pining after or a wishing or a craving. Faith is not pretending. Faith is not pretending that something is that it isn't. It's not psyching yourself out to believe something that's not true. It's not a con that you have to swallow. Faith is a way of seeing the world, which is why we sang the song that we just sung. To open the eyes of my heart is to see the world in a different way, to see the world in a way that God sees the world. So the perfect example is the first man ever into outer space was a Russian by the name of Yuri Gagarin. They sent him up in a rocket. He went around the earth. He came back down, and famously Yuri said, "I have been to the heavens and seen no God." So not that long afterwards, the Americans sent a Buckeye out into space, an Ohioan. Went out into outer space, circled around the earth, came back down. John Glenn said, "I have been to outer space and I saw God everywhere." It's the exact same situation. It's the same experiences for the most part. One man couldn't find God. The one man couldn't see anything else. That is looking with an open heart, the eyes of God. So, something else faith isn't a feeling. So often we think, I should feel God. I should want and I should have this desire and I should be overwhelmed with emotion. And you know, if we get into the Christian circles and we get into singing the songs and you get your hands up and you're feeling it and you think, oh wow, that person is really feeling the faith. They're in the moment. Well, they may be, but it is more than that. Because what will happen, and I assure you, that is if you do that, your faith will fail you because your feelings will fail you. And if your feelings are your faith, then it won't be long before you decide that it's too much trouble, I don't want to bother with it anymore. And then you go and you do whatever you feel like doing. Faith has to be more than that because that's what God intended it to be. Our Bible reading today, if you notice, came from the book of Numbers. Not a real popular book, I admit. There's probably more popular books in the Bible, but one of the most amazing stories, and that's why I want to bring it up today. So this is the Israelites, a little backstory. They left Egypt, they walked around in the Sinai Peninsula, and then they come up to the river, the Jordan River. And across that river is the Promised Land, the land that's flowing with milk and honey, the land that God had promised them, the thing that they had been holding on to for 400 years when they were slaves in Egypt. They're finally there, and they know that there's going to be some skirmishes, right? There's people who are already living in this land. So they decide what they're going to do is they're going to take a leader, a person from all of the tribes. They get 12 people together. They send them out into what will be the Promised Land to scope it out, to scout it out, to see what they can see. Now they come back, and there's two guys, Caleb and Joshua, and they go, "Hot dog, this is a good place. God knows what he's doing. Let's go get it." That's two people. The other 10 said, "Oh, we saw people who were huge, monsters, massive. And if we go in there, they will crush us." There's these groups, they're called the Anakites. You ever see Star Wars? You ever see the name of the guy who becomes Darth Vader? His name is Anakin. This is where George Lucas got that name from these huge, massive people who were already living in this promised land. Now, the other 10, they see these massive people, and they are scared witless, and they say, "We can't go in there. We will be crushed. We will be eaten. We will be destroyed." And eventually, these 10 kind of convince all of the other people that they shouldn't do what God had sent them to do. Now, you know, I hope you know, negativity is catching. It's contagious. And when these 10 started rumbling about all the negative, bad things that were going on, everybody else caught on, and everybody else got afraid, and they all said, "We can't be here. We need to leave now." So God said, get out of here then. This is the land I gave you. You don't want it? Go. And he sent them off. They wandered around in the wilderness for 40 years until everybody who was in that group over a certain age who decided they weren't going to go into the land God gave them died. That was the second strike. There were two strikes. The first one was when they were coming out of Egypt and they were at the base of a mountain and Moses went up that mountain. Maybe you'll remember that Moses was given the 10 Commandments. And when he came back down, he found all of the Israelites worshiping a golden calf that they had made for themselves. That was the first strike. The second one was when they were looking at the promised land that God had given them, and they said, no, we can't take it, we can't get it, we won't have anything to do with it. God said, you're right, you won't, get out of here. Now 40 years later, they came back. They came back, they walked right over that river, they went right into the land of the Anakites, and the Anakites said, oh man, we have been afraid for 40 years, we have been petrified. 40 years we were afraid. We heard that you were coming, and we knew that you were going to take us out. We were ready to give up our land without a fight. We were ready to submit immediately. They could have had everything for free. God had set it up for them if only they would have taken it. But instead, they underestimated God. They exaggerated their difficulties. Now look, this is the God who looked at the largest, most powerful nation in the world, sent plague after plague after plague, 10 plagues, until eventually these people leave Egypt. And they're leaving Egypt, and God protects them from the sun by a cloud during the day, and at night puts a big pillar of fire so that the chariots can't attack them at nighttime. And then as they're walking and the snakes bite them, God gives them a way for the snake bite venom to be removed from the people. And of course, they're in the wilderness. They're in this desert. And God gives them manna from heaven to feed them. God has been with them every step of the way. And then when they come to the promised land, the land flowing with milk and honey, they get afraid. They see these Anakites, and they run away because they exaggerated their difficulties. I mean, don't we do this? Don't we exaggerate our difficulties in life? If I said, hey, right now, everybody pull out your phone, I'm going to start a watch, 10 minutes, I want you to write down all of your blessings. My bet is, at the end of that 10 minutes, you would still be writing and not have all of your blessings down. You would still have more things that you would have to write down because we have been blessed and we have blessings on top of our blessings. And yet, don't we still get worried? Don't we still live our life wondering, oh man, how am I going to get through this? And we look on the horizon and we say, how is this ever going to be solved? What will others say about me? What am I capable of? I can't do that. I'm never going to measure up. We compare ourselves to others. We worry about all these things, and yet God says, don't worry, I've got you. See, we get these false impressions of ourselves. The last verse that we read, Numbers 13:33. Hello? 13:33, the Bible says, the Israelites say of themselves, we were like grasshoppers. And then it goes on to say, and they thought the same of us. Now wait, hold on. How do the Israelites know what the Anakites thought about them? They don't know that. That's ridiculous. They don't know what was the thought in somebody else's mind. How could they know that? But they thought they knew that, and because they thought they understood that, then that was their understanding, that they were grasshoppers. Now the reason they thought that was very obvious. For 400 years, they had been told by the Egyptians, you're worthless, you're a slave, you're good for nothing, you're less than dirt. Your life is worth absolutely nothing. They were told, and they believed it. Somewhere, someone in your life has said something behind your back and you heard it. Maybe it's said it to your face over and over and over. They said, you're worthless, you're not valuable. Maybe it was a sibling. Maybe it was a parent. Maybe it was a coworker or a boss. Maybe it was somebody you went to school with. Maybe it was your enemy. Maybe it was a friend. And they said, oh, you're uncoordinated. You're never going to amount to anything. You're not able to do that. Why would you think you could do that? You're not a people person. You're not good at computers. You can't do math. You're a... And then we believed it. We believed the box that they put us in. We believed that we weren't as good, that we weren't as able, as capable. They put us in a box. They gave us a label. And we accepted it. And then that's what we became. You are not in Egypt anymore. You are not a slave anymore. See with the eyes of your heart. See with the eyes that God gave you. See with God's eyes that those things in your life are just things in your life. Okay, you might be a Christian who's struggling with loneliness. You might be a Christian who is a codependent. You might be a Christian who is struggling with your worth. You might be a Christian who has worries and anxieties. You might be a Christian who says, no, I'm inadequate. You might be a Christian who has panic attacks. But you see that all of those things are the second thing. The first thing is that you're a Christian. That's who God made you. You're a Christian first. Everything else is second. It doesn't mean that you can ignore it. It doesn't mean you don't have to pay attention to it. It doesn't mean that it's not a thing that's impacting your life. But it means that it's second. And that first is God and what He sees. And what He made. And what He intended. And that's you. A child of God. Made to be more than whatever label somebody puts on you. Made to be more than whatever limitations you think you have. You are given a call in this life, and God says, I will see it to you. I will see you to the river, and if you would walk over it and take what I want to give you, it would be given to you. But we build up these things in our life, and we say these difficulties are owning us, and we think that we're smaller than we are, and we accept the labels that people have put on us, and we become smaller and smaller, and soon enough, we believe the lies. Don't believe the lies. Jesus came to reveal the truth, which is what He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Now these things that are in your life, they're going to be problems. And when you acknowledge that they're problems, that means you're going to have to face these things that you don't want to face. And when you face the things that you don't want to face, you know what happens? It gets scary. It gets hard. It gets uncomfortable. If you're used to doing one thing and then you have to stretch and do another, I promise you that stretch will stretch you. And you will have to go outside of your comfort zone to be the thing that God wants you to be. But you can be that thing. And when you do that, then you can be exactly who God intended you to be. Which is not lonely or scared or codependent or panicful or inadequate. It's a Christian. Don't live by what you can't do. Live by what God can do. And when you believe that God can do these things for you, you have faith.